Paul Zohav is an expert in counseling on marriage and relationships. If you or anyone you know needs help in your relationship, this is the podcast for you. Stay tuned. Have you ever been bored by a speaker? Why? Would you be happy being a boring speaker? Of course not. Well, I have been bored by speakers for decades, and I decided to change the world. Change the world. I created Storytizing, my signature training that will make you interesting, make you energized, make you more successful. It will have people wanting you to talk to them and to their organizations. It will get you booked on more stages. And isn't that what you really want? Storytizing. You need the training. I am the trainer. Hey, reach out to me, stevesapatoseminars.com. Hey, I'm Steve Sapato, and you're listening to The Happiness Agenda, where we help you find greater happiness. And today I have Paul Zohav, who is going to absolutely help you find that perfect relationship or create the relationship that you've been wanting. Hi, Paul. How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Here in Tucson, it's probably about 105 degrees, but I'm sure it's cooler wherever you are.
I think it's only like 87 here in
Oh,
Florida. So yeah, we're much cooler than 105. Wow. So
yeah.
folks, what I want you to understand is Paul can help you with what you're struggling with. So Paul, tell us, how did you get started in this? I mean, that's a crazy field.
Well, since 35 years ago, I began with a fresh degree in counseling from the University of Virginia. I began um, helping perpetrators of
Oh,
domestic violence counselor. And after about 2 years, I realized, why wouldn't I spend my time preventing it rather than treating it
that's a great thought. That's a
after the
really
damage is
great thought.
done?
Yeah.
I'm fine at helping perpetrators, but I'd much rather they get the skills they need to avoid being in my DV class.
Yeah.
I once said to them, this isn't a domestic violence class. This is the best relationship on the planet class. And their listening shifted. They saw their participation in my class as an opportunity rather than an obligation. And that makes all the difference. In
Oh,
fact, part of the work I do with couples is that they get to choose, to be together rather than as an opportunity rather than an obligation.
yeah.
So
You
that's a,
know, I,
that's
I
that's a
taught
major
I
that's a
taught
major
college.
shift.
Yeah, I taught college many years ago, Paul, and it was I taught speech communication, and it was a required course. And
Uh-huh.
so about half the students who'd come into the class were just they didn't want anything to do with it, right? And it
Hmm.
became my job to try and show them why it was a real advantage that they took this course. And about half of them would come around, swing around, and get better. And the other third, the fourth 25% would still go, I hate this course. I don't want to do it. And you can't make me, blah, blah, blah. That goes. And that's exactly what we talk about. I ask people all the time, I said, how do you find love? What do you do? Because I wrote my book, the 20 things you need to learn in order to find the love of your life. And it was one of those deals where who taught you about love? Who showed you? Normally, it's like we see it on TV, we see it in the movies, and we certainly tried to learn it from our moms, our dads, or people around us. And most of those don't have any idea, right, Paul?
Listen, my parents were good people, but their models for relationship and communication were the 1930s.
Yeah.
If you remember black and white TV movies,
Yeah.
men are marginalized and they're smoking like chimneys.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me to watch those movies because it aches. But my parents were good people,
Yeah.
and our schools do not have curriculum for living.
No, that's the truth, isn't it? Man,
A
isn't that
teenager,
crazy?
a teenager wants nothing more than to get connected to the next teenager.
Yeah.
And we teach them more science, technology, engineering, and math. So one of the
Well,
get one of the,
I'm
and
not even sure we teach them that, do we?
we hope to. Um, and the fact is, they'd rather learn how to, and then they graduate high school or college, and they have to get along with the person in the next cubicle,
Yeah.
and they haven't got a clue. So one of the reasons I wrote my book, Marriage and Communication Recipes for Life, that's a quick commercial. It's formatted as a manual. It's a cookbook. Follow the directions. Get your cake, only the cake is your life.
And what was the name of the book?
Marriage and Communication Recipes for Life.
Recipes for Life.
Formatted as a manual, a cookbook, because we understand from the Myers-Briggs distinction that most people want directions. They don't want explanations.
Yeah.
They do not need to be explained why they should do this. They just want a connection. And I teach them in the first course. There's 5 sessions. First one being 2 hours long. And in the first half an hour, they get a set of tools that we'll talk about it here, when we get a chance. Um,
It's funny. I tell people all the time. I said the five love languages is like the Bible to relationships,
Mhm.
but you need an interpretation, and that's what my book, the 20 teaches you how to
Sure.
use that because we do need instructional usage, right?
Well, let me give you an example. In the 5 love languages, or maybe it was the other one, the 16personalities.com. Well, there's a mother and a daughter who are making brisket. Young daughter, mother making brisket together.
Okay.
And the young daughter says, "Why do you cut off the ends of the brisket?" And the mother, because she wants to know why. That's intuitive in the world of Myers-Briggs. But the mother says, "Well, I don't know. That's how I learned it from my mother."
No.
Mother is a sensor. She just follows the directions. And they go to their mother, their grandmother, and say, "Grandma, why do you cut the ends of the brisket off?" And grandma says, "Well, the pot was too small."
I like that.
But in terms of way you process the world, I'm an intuitive. I like the biggest answers possible. But then there's people who are letter S. They follow policies, procedures, rules, regulations, manuals, and recipes. And when you tell them how to do it, they are satisfied. If you want to explain why they ought to do it, they think you're crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't want explanations, they want directions. And sometimes an intuitive person marries a sensor person, my spouse, and she said, "Well, I have about 5 more minutes of listening, then we have to change the subject."
I like, at least she tells you, right?
But we create a boundary. Boundary is important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, and she and I get along in 26 years now. And
Cool.
once you know that the lay of the land or the music, the dance you're playing, you can easily dance. And five love language, for instance, is a major gift. Every couple, I give them a copy. And the
Nice.
homework for the first session is to read the first 9 chapters aloud together, taking turns.
Cool.
When
We're on
that's
the same, we're on the same frequency there. That's
that's
cool.
we want to educate our us.
Yeah.
I don't want two me's who know more. I want an us that knows how to behave. And I found out from when I did five love languages that my spouse acts of service. She shows love by acts of service. She was a teacher, a principal, she's on the board, um, and she's an extrovert, which helps. And so she just acts of service, and she loves doing laundry for us because she does acts of service. And when I do Norton Utilities on her computer, she feels loved. When I
Yeah.
help her change the sheets, she feels loved because she says, "I want to change the sheets on Sundays." Far more frequently than I would change the sheets, given my druthers. But I know that she likes to change the sheets on Sunday, so I say yes, and I show up, and I speak her love language, and she says she speaks my love language in return, which is words of affirmation and being appreciated. It's not much more difficult than knowing how to love each other.
Yes.
And you take the quiz at fivelovelanguages.com, and you start comparing results. Among other things, infidelity shows up here, among many other places, but you know, a guy calls me up and says, "Something wrong with my wife," says he. And it turns out that he's been busy on his business. She's quality time love language.
Oh,
And so she says, "Let's go to the gym. Let's go for a walk. Let's walk the dog. Let's do something together." Because that's what a person with quality time wants. I'm also a quality time person. But since he wasn't paying attention or didn't know to pay attention, she found someone quality time elsewhere.
yeah.
She found someone to play with. That's how she feels love, with quality time, and he wouldn't do it.
Yep.
And then he calls me, "There's something wrong with my wife."
Yep. That's it.
Learn each other's love languages, choose to speak each other's love language. And I could go on for hours, by the way. Maybe
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a question. I can, I
Yeah.
can, I can, I
Well,
can pivot.
that's what we're supposed to be. The people who are listening, I hope you're tuning in and really getting information. Because I tell people all the time, I was working at the Village Inn at 29 years old. I was a night manager, and we used to have people come into the Village Inn, And one couple came in and they would walk in, get their booth, sit down for breakfast, open their newspapers, and never talk to each other. So the breakfast come out, they'd put them in front of them, they'd fold back their paper so they could read the paper, and they would eat, and they would get up and they would leave. And I mean, we all bet, boy, I bet you they don't say 20 words to each other in that whole breakfast. And at that time, I said, they must be miserable. I did not know that their love language was quality time. And they just loved spending that time together. You know, it's when you finally realize there's different ways for people to see it. And it's phenomenal. So I do recommend, highly recommend, go to the five love language quiz.com and start that process with your partner, certainly with your partner. If not, if you don't have a partner and you're looking for a partner, then you should start with yourself so you know what yours is.
Well, to find a partner and to stay together with a partner might take going to 16personalities.com.
Okay.
It's a version of the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator. And you may find out that one of you, and I'm kind of like that, responds to life with analytical. Figure it out. What's going on here? Why did this happen? Um, so I'm a thinker, letter T. And if you're in a relationship, after about the third date, I'm just take the quiz. Don't overthink the questions. It's
Yeah.
not worth the time. And you may find out that you are an extrovert who's falling in love with an introvert.
Yep.
You get to be responsible for that because extroverts get a lot of energy from social interaction. They have friends, lots of friends, like to spend time with friends, and they come home with more energy than when they left. But then there's introverts like me who I'm happy I generate myself. I don't have a high need for friends. I know thousands of people,
Yeah.
but it's when my couples come to my office, it's two or three at a time. I'm comfortable. Um, and so there was a young couple, about 24 years old, and she was very extroverted and he was very introverted. And she said, "Why don't we go out and meet all my friends?"
Oh.
says she. And he goes, eh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But now they know what's going on. They have a simple solution. Two cars. She
No.
goes, spends an hour with her friends. He shows up for an hour, goes home. She completes her evening with her friends. So it's not about compatibility so much as responsibility. And if I'm a thinker, I mentioned that earlier, I get to honor my spouse's emotions. Because there's some of our thinkers try to argue out of feeling that way.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
do you feel that way? It's not a big deal. It's a yes or no question,
Yeah.
says the
Why
thinker.
why do you do that? Why do you keep doing that? Why are you always doing it? It's like, whoa, back up, right?
Well,
Paul, before we go too much further, if somebody
right.
wants to ask you a question, how do they get a hold of you?
Um, Easiest is marriageandcommunication.com. Hit the contact button.
Marriageandcommunication.com
Communication.com.
with
With
an
an
S at the end. Marriage and communications.
nope, singular,
Nope,
singular.
singular. Okay. Because otherwise you might not find it.
Dot.
Marriageandcommunication.com.
And there on that website, you'll find about podcasts like this, a whole mess of others, and 30 reviews that people by and large have a 4.9 stars. And there's blogs galore. And so I'd be happy to engage. Just contact me. We'll set up a meeting, and we'll talk.
You know, that's key to the people who are listening and who want to get better relationships, who want to make a relationship they're in better. The more you learn, the better it can be. The more you're open to learning, the better it can be. So if you're sitting out there listening to this podcast, we want you to reach out to Paul at marriageandcommunication.com and ask him some questions. Just say, hey, I'm struggling with this or I'm having that. And if you can, obviously hire Paul to help you and your significant other really
There's a,
work on that relationship.
there's a compatibility checkup that, relatively inexpensive, that in an hour and a half, you'll know your love languages, your personality types. You'll get
Wow.
on the same page because you can spend, as I said earlier, if you're a thinker married to a feeler, you don't want to leave them feeling like you don't care about them or their feelings. And if you're a judge, if you are a sensor or intuitive, they're interested in the details. They don't care about why. They want to have fun. They want to live their life. So by the third date, I'll just make it up. Take the quiz. Explore that the fact is that what's you might have been taking personally is merely an artifact of personality.
I like that. He said by the third date, you should be taking this quiz together. If you're on a third date, it means it's gotten a little more special.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of those deals where when I had people, when I was really deeply involved, probably 10 years ago, I was doing a lot of blogging and a lot of talking on it. And I would write to the ladies who would write to me. And I said, well, first step is, because they'd go, well, man, I date these guys 2 or 3 months and then they dump me. Or I do that, I go, okay, first thing I want to tell you, because then you get into the talk. And all of them were having sex with their guys like after the first 4 or 5 dates. And I went, first thing you want to do is not have sex for 3 months. And the women were horrified. They went, what?
It's not realistic. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The fact is that hormones are what hormones are.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of other conversations, but I think actually when I ask couples to come for a relationship checkup, take the two quizzes first and then come with me the information.
See?
Because and tell the truth, if I recommend my son found his spouse through
Oh, yeah.
Bumble, where the women have the input whether they reach out and connect with a guy or not. On your Bumble profile, I would add my personality type and my love languages. Save a lot of time. If when you start initiate your relationship on Bumble, they know that you're introverted, thinker, sensor, judger. If they don't know, you want them to find out before you accept them as a partner.
Yeah.
You're going to save a lot of time.
It's interesting though. Like my son did all of these things, and he found a wife 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and they seemed like they were perfectly compatible. I mean, they backpacked through South America and Europe, and I mean when I say backpack, they had a little pack. They weren't big tents or anything. They had little backpacks. They stayed at hostels, and for 5 years, boy, they lived the life of travel and having a great time. And then they both settled into their professions. And hers was quite different from his, because she was in through the education system and she was over in Europe teaching this and he was over in Europe doing bartending. And long story short, I wasn't even privy to it, but last year he said, we're getting divorced. I went, what? Right? And I was stunned, but it's the
They
truth
weren't
is,
speaking their love
well,
languages.
and even if you are, you can have personal growth that will take you in a different direction.
Hmm?
Don't hate your spouse because you've grown apart, especially if you're only 25, 30 years old, because there's a lot of personal growth in there. Paul and I are older. We've in the last, you've been with your spouse how long? 26 years?
26 years.
And I've been with mine for 11. And that time that we get to find that person and personally grow until we're that age has changed how we have expectations for a relationship too. So it's all different, right, Paul?
There's a lot of mischief. One of the things we look at are things you made up to be true when you're 5.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm 5 years old, I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that no one cares what I want. My sister had been born 2 years earlier. My life changed radically. And I blamed her, which is kind of a mistake, but I could have blamed my mother and got a lot more mileage out of it. And so by the time we moved to a different place and to a different school, and I'm 5.5 years old, she walks out the back of the auditorium, and I knew that in that moment that nobody cares what I want. Another couple, her father never said he loved her.
Oh,
She never got appreciation the entire length of her childhood, and so she wakes up every morning not good enough.
yeah.
And now that she knows that she's completely clear that she's not good enough, she looks for it, and there's confirmation bias. You may have heard that. If you look for not good enough, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
And she marries a guy who has his meme from childhood is I have to be aware of the emotional needs of the people around me. And then they marry each other. And the minute they said, I do, that was in the room. Not good enough. Married to someone, be aware of the emotional needs of my spouse. And they're not really living an adult life.
Yeah.
I have couples that look like two 12-year-olds duking it out. And they wonder why they're not getting along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
we'll look at distortions left over from before when you were cognitively, intellectually, and emotionally immature. Think about 5 years old. And then we overwrite old code to give you an adult life.
Yeah. I was probably 40 years old before I said something to my mom and dad one day. And they went, and I don't remember what they said, but I went, well, you never came down. Like I was in theater and I played in the band. And when we were younger in the band, they took us to those places. But I said, you never came to my plays, you never came to my performances, and they both looked at me like, what? What are you talking about? We went to every one of them, and if you were like in this one, you were 3 nights, we were there every night. I went, you were not, and they went, we were there every night. Now, up until
Yeah.
that point, I was like, my mom and dad don't care, they don't come and see me, right? I don't have this, and when they said we're there, I said, but you never came backstage, and they said we never wanted to bother you when you were with your
Uh,
friends. And you were like, what a revelation that was to my heart, right?
Listen, there's some really tragic childhoods out there. I get to see a lot of them. One of them is abused when he's 13. He watched his sister being abused when she was 12.
Oh, man.
Before he grew up, he saw two murders.
Oh,
I got stories to tell, and just like that'll put a dent in your fender.
oh, yeah.
He's now they're getting along just fine, but and one guy lived in a neighborhood that was so violent he couldn't learn to he no couldn't survive, let alone learn to read.
Yeah.
And one more story. I got lots of stories.
I bet.
His parents cheated on each other. Her parents cheated on each other. Her brother's cheating on her sister-in-law right now, and so in her life, her radar is set on cheat.
Yeah.
She's always looking for signs of cheat because it's inevitable. Everybody does it. It's gonna be our turn. And
Yeah.
they're married 13 years, and he walks on eggshells around her.
Oh.
He never knows what's gonna set her off. He looks at a waitress too long, boom. So she lives in a world given by cheat. It's
You know what? Yeah.
like NPR radio. 12
Oh,
o'clock. How do you spot cheating? 2
yeah.
o'clock. Tune in. What do you do when you find cheating?
Yeah.
Her life is basically cheating waiting to happen. And
That
so
was my second marriage. I was married for 21 years on that one because we had a son, and I didn't want to. She was very emotionally abusive, and so I didn't want to leave him behind. But I mean, I was a real estate appraiser, so my office was in my house. So I was sitting in my basement one afternoon, been there all day, and my wife calls me up and says, "Hey, where'd you go today?" I went, "I didn't go anywhere today. I was working here." And she went, "Well, you went to this place." I went, "No, I haven't been out of the office all day." And she went, "Well, somebody saw your car here." I went, "Couldn't have been my car." They said, "Well, it had your license plate," right? I went, "Well, it's just not possible." And she went, "And who was the brunette in the car with you?" And you're like, oh, now I get it. I was cheating, even though I was home all day, I was cheating. And that happened all the time.
Well, she may have grown up in a family, I hear this more than once, where she witnessed her parents screaming at each other until they got divorced.
Yeah.
And so she's imprinted on, well, that's how life is. And so she's aware of, even though then there's cross-cultural couples. You know,
Oh,
she's from mainland China. He's an American. They marry each other. They're both professors at the university here in Arizona. But he is from Canadian, and Canadians apparently like apology even more than Americans do. But her parents went to the re-education camps in the Cultural Revolution in the time of Mao Zedong. And so in that culture, when you want to apologize, you write out a screed, put it on a public bulletin board,
yeah.
and that's what apology is in that culture at that time. So when he's waiting for an apology, oh, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of cross-cultural things that walk in the door. And, there's no word for please in Tagalog,
Oh, no
the
kidding.
second language of the Philippines.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a hierarchical society, you wouldn't say please. She said the closest we get to please in Tagalog is gimme.
Oh, no kidding. That's fascinating.
Because you're expected to, because that's your place in society.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's enormous cultural breaks and this personality conflicts. And once you know what's going on, you can rewrite your future. And
So let me ask the listeners a question here. If you're listening in, what is your biggest challenge in your relationship? Why don't you write to one of us, right? You know that how you get
please.
a hold of Paul,
Mhm.
but write to one of us and say, this is my challenge. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm having problems with. And this is what I've always had problems with, or this is a new problem. Tell us what you want to tell us and ask us what you want to ask us. We are open. The reason we do these podcasts
Podcasts.
is because we want to help you help yourself. That's the whole name of it. Like the happiness agenda is all about helping you. Sometimes it's about business helping you. Sometimes it's about positive mental attitude. Sometimes it's about relationships. But if you have a question, Paul and I would love to hear from you. So write to us. I'm Steve at stevesapato.com. And you know how to get a hold of Paul because it's just one of those deals where you got to be sitting there right now going, I have a question, I have a question, I have a question. Please write it down, send it to us in an email. Right, Paul?
Yep. And let me give you first aid for communication. It won't take very long. Most people react. I say something to you, Steve, you react. You say something to me, I tend to react. But reaction is not intelligent. Responding is intelligent. So how do you go from one to the other? Start your sentences with yes, as many as possible. Because when you say yes, you're connected. You've established a connection. They know you're listening and you know, and they feel heard. Yes. Let's take some time and talk. Yes. How should we talk about this? Yes. Do you need something from me? Yes, and is the can opener of communication. It's also first aid for angry. Someone says, Steve, you're an asshole. Pardon me for saying that, but so now you say you don't explain yourself and you don't defend yourself because they're not listening. So why bother? So you say, yes, I hear you. Don't forget those two lines.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you. I want to hear some more.
That's excellent advice right there. Because I mean, I tell people all the time, if one person calls me an asshole, yeah, I slough it off. If three or four people call me an asshole, maybe they got a point. So you have to ask yourself, are you responsible for what they're saying to you? If your spouse, your significant other is saying something that hurts your feelings, the first thing you want to do is go F off, right?
Well,
Don't do that.
you will short circuit that entire mischief by saying, yes, let's talk.
That's right.
If they start running down the rabbit hole, you can stop the descent by saying, yes, let's take a moment. I'll make a cup of coffee. I'll listen to everything you have to say.
Imagine how that will change the conversation
Mhm.
from them being upset with you and you not taking offense and getting upset with them, but instead saying, yes, tell me more, or yes, why do you feel that way?
Don't ask why questions. Why questions will
No?
get you a story.
Okay.
A yes and an and will get you communication.
Okay, cool.
The word and, the three-letter word, is magical. I mean, you could say peanut butter and jelly and dogs and cats and brothers and sisters, but an and opens up the future. Now, listen carefully. They say blah, blah, blah. I go, and with a rising inflection.
Think of that.
You can be depressed and having a bad day, and you can and yourself out into the sunshine. You have
Cool.
a flat tire. You could go, flat tire, or go, and call AAA.
and
And opens up a space that
but
you have never been in together.
and that's true of people who are complaining. You've got chronic complainers all over. We go to the pickleball courts and some people just want to complain. And when you hear them complain and complain, you go, and now think how that
Exactly.
changed.
That's
Yeah, think,
exactly right. Because some people like to dramatize their suffering. We get
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But from ordinary life, you know, what should we have for breakfast? And what would you like?
yeah.
A and D. If you're spiritually inclined, I've been a chaplain as well. It seems to me that God gave us life and then he gave us the word and the rest of it's up to us. You don't like it? And it's. And if you have a teenager and they say, I want what I want, and you go, and I'm listening.
Or they say, I
Yes.
hate you, right?
Then you say, yes, I hear you. Could you tell me some more?
There you go. What a cool thing to say. Hey, Paul,
Don't get to react.
we've reached up to our 25 minutes. This has been absolutely terrific conversation. Folks, Paul, tell us again how to get a hold of you so people can write it down.
Yeah, marriageandcommunication.com. You can email me at paul@marriageandcommunication.com. And I promise you, in half an hour, you'll have a different approach to communication and relationships.
Now, and I want to ask this question. It's marriage A-N-D,
A-N-D,
not the ampersand thingy.
no ampersands.
Marriage and
At
communication.com.
Paul at marriageandcommunication.com. You can, or you can leave me on the contact sheet at marriageandcommunication.com. And, if you want to do a compatibility checkup, do the quizzes first.
Cool.
Learn what you can about each other at fivelovelanguages.com, 16personalities.com. Write down the results and then come to me.
Write them down. Do you guys hear that? Write them
Results.
down.
Four letters, four percentages. Don't forget percentages. And then you want five love languages from most to least. And with that information, I can help you interpret it. It's like kind of like tarot card for relationships. You know,
Cool. Yeah.
I don't feel heard because they don't know how to listen. It's not complicated. It's really uncomplicated. You can get a lot of life, with three-letter words.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's really cool. So I really highly encourage everyone listening to tune in and go. Paul has other podcasts on his website that you
Lots.
can listen to and gain more knowledge. Subscribe. Are they on like place where you can subscribe, Paul?
Not, I haven't set up subscriptions yet, but it'll happen in the future.
But they're not on YouTube or anything.
Well, there's videos that have been made. There is a video to channel. You can find some things, but just
Okay.
go to marriageandcommunication.com and click on videos.
And then make that a favorite in your whatever bar that is across the top.
And then there's the book, Marriage and Communication Recipes for Life. For 20 bucks you have or ebook, 10 bucks, you can follow directions. Get your cake. Only the cake is your life.
Cool. How cool is that?
Come to me after you've done some of the work. We'll save a lot of time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hey, appreciate you being on here, Paul. Everybody else, you know how to get a hold of us. It's been a pleasure working with you and sharing with you. And I hope you all have a fabulous year. God bless.
God bless.
Yeah.